What's up, you guys, and welcome back to Laugh Napkin. Today we're looking at a couple stories from r/Am I The Ahole, and then one story from r/Malicious Compliance. Let's get right into it. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother and sister-in-law, you got your big day, now you have to deal with the consequences? I'm a 29-year-old female, and my brother, a 31-year-old male, and his wife, a 34-year-old female, got married 2 months ago. They had a destination wedding. Unfortunately, none of our side, except a cousin, could attend due to multiple valid reasons, which I will list a short few. My grandparents are 95, 98, and 89. They're too old. Our parents, my mom has breast cancer, and my dad takes full care of her. Me and our youngest brother's girlfriend are heavily pregnant, and they have a newborn. Our older brother and aunt are busy doctors who have to be extra careful. Everyone else either couldn't afford it or couldn't afford to take 2 weeks off. We tried to explain to them the situations months before the wedding, but we're hit with our wedding, our rules, don't like it, don't come. We asked to be able to help in any way we could, but a few weeks before the wedding their attitudes changed. We were told they preferred to go low contact because we weren't coming to the wedding, which meant we didn't support their marriage. I even begged to pay for the bridesmaids' dresses, but my brother told me he didn't want my money, he wanted me at his day. I tried explaining to him his wedding was 4 days before my due date. He ended up screaming at me, calling me a spoiled, entitled brat, and then blocking me. They did similar stuff with everyone else. They even went as far as getting my extremely sick mother upset to the point my father stopped talking to my brother. So on to the situation. After months of passive-aggressive posts on social media and bride/groomzilla tantrums, they wanted to make up with everyone due to my mother finding out extremely heartbreaking news. She has 6 months left. We all ended up having dinner at my family home tonight, with everyone being extremely cold to my brother and his wife. No one really cared to listen to them about their wedding, nor looked at their photos. My brother ended up getting us siblings alone to ask us why we were being dicks. My youngest brother told him tonight wasn't the time and then walked out. Oldest said when mom died he would never speak to him again, but due to the fact that I'm his only sister, he seemed more mad/upset at me. I told him, you got your big day, now you have to deal with the consequences. My brother and sister-in-law got extremely upset and then left. My mother asked what happened, but we told her he had the runs, diarrhea, and needed to leave. My brother sent me a heartbreaking email afterwards on how he felt so rejected that we weren't at his wedding, nor apologized afterwards. Sorry for my bad grammar, but with the news of my mom and having a newborn, plus the situation with my brother, my mind is like a noodle right now. Yeah, I think we can all agree that the brother and the sister-in-law are the a-holes here. Definitely not OP. I personally think if you're going to have a destination wedding, you shouldn't expect many people to come, especially given the situations of everyone in the family. Maybe have a destination wedding and then celebrate when you get back home and everyone can join. I think that sounds like a good option. Anyway, let's move on to the next story. This one's from Malicious Compliance. As per my NDA, I'm not allowed to discuss this position with former employees. Since my firing is effective immediately, you are now a former employee. Gather around as I tell you the story of the time I got fired at the worst place I have ever worked. From day one, it was a nightmare. There was zero onboarding or training. I was simply given the login info for a couple of different websites and told to get to work. This company planned large conferences, and I was in charge of speaker coordination. I was the only person in this role. The information solely resided with me. Not a big deal, I say to myself. I'm good at thinking on my feet. I'll just ask a few questions when I need clarification on something. That turned out to be impossible. My manager's first language wasn't English. I'm all for learning new languages. I think it's a great skill to have, and it takes a lot of work, and being able to speak multiple languages is impressive. The problem was that her English was so poor that it was often very hard to understand what she was trying to say. I once asked if she had time to hop on a call and explain something to me, and she responded with, "No, cranny. Self-skills is a must. I'm a bird without head." Sorry, that was hard to read. It took me a few days to figure out that she was trying to say that things were hectic, she was running around like a chicken with his head cut off, and she needed me to be self-sufficient. Regardless, I did my best in the position. Small mistakes happened here and there, but overall all the speakers were very happy and felt well supported. I struggled on the communication with my manager, but I thought the company was happy with my work. Until 4 months in, when I was randomly pulled into a meeting with my manager, HR, and legal. Effective immediately, I was fired. I asked why I was being fired and why this was the first I had heard of any problems. Why wasn't there a write-up or a verbal warning? My manager said it was because the 10 minutes I ran the analytics it takes for me to respond to an email was too slow. That was a BS reason, and we all knew it. If you don't like me personally, fine, but don't try and make it seem like I was a bad employee. To be honest, I was furious. We do the exit interview with HR, and she asked me to send over any documents I had. We worked on personal computers remotely, and describe where I was at in regards to our next event and our speakers. NDAs are really common in this field. I've signed one at every job I've ever worked. But this employer's NDA had a clause in it that worked to my advantage. I said, as per my NDA, I'm not to discuss intimate details or share documents relating to this position with any employer past or future. Since this firing was effective immediately, you are now a former employer, and I'm bound by my NDA. HR hemmed and hawed a little bit, telling me that of course I could speak to them about it. This was about their event. I pulled out my copy of the NDA, always save contracts, and pointed out the exact clause and said that it clearly stated that if I violated this NDA, I would be sued, so no, I could not talk to them about the position. HR turned to legal, and legal pointed out that I was technically correct. They were a former employer, and I was bound by my NDA. They fired me 17 days before the event. They didn't have time to start over from scratch. I still keep in contact with some of my coworkers, and apparently the event was a shit show, and my manager nearly lost her job because of it. Over half of the speakers pulled out once the communication broke down. All because I take too long to respond to emails. Hoo-hoo-wee. They definitely did not fire you because you take too long to respond to emails. That is just absurd. But boy oh boy, that was some sweet malicious compliance. Alright guys, let's move on to the next story. Back to r/am I the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for ditching my date at the restaurant? Before anyone thinks this is fake, let me assure you, I wish this was. I am in shock. I'm a 26-year-old male, and I just recently went on a date with a 25 to 28-year-old female girl last Tuesday. We met at the gym. I've had a crush on her for a while and finally struck up a conversation and asked her out. I booked us a nice Korean restaurant that has Korean barbecue stations. So we sit at the bar and have a pleasant chat for a few minutes, and then they tell us our table is ready. Then we go to the table, and it's got a huge grill with a fire on it, and she instantly asks what this is. How does anyone not know where Korean barbecue is? But I brush it off and explain to her, and she was like, but why do we have to do all the work? LOL? Yes, she said LOL unironically. Isn't that their job? I explained to her that's what's fun about it, but we could always order off the a la carte menu if she didn't want a barbecue. But she said just make them do it for us, and insisted on calling the waitress over and asking them to put the meat on the grill, and demanded to be served after it was ready. This elderly Korean lady had to shuffle between busy tables and come and flip the meat and serve our plates. But wait, it gets worse. So at this point I'm super embarrassed and seeing red flags like crazy. I'm Indian, so I'm kinda used to the whole servant-master attitude thing because it's big in India. But I'm not a fan of it, and I thought it was super weird here in the States. But I wanted to see the date to the end. And yes, shamelessly enough, I was hoping for some adult time. At the end of the meal, she asked for dessert. I agree and ask to see the menu. The waitress comes over and gives the menu and hands it to her. She then waits for her to leave and says, "My God, this place is a nightmare. All these useful immigrants, she's white, come into the country and don't even work and eat up our tax dollar. Are they even legal?" And she said it loudly enough that a nearby table of brown people in their 20s started giving her dirty looks and whispering to each other. She notices this and goes, "Same goes for these insert racist word for people of Pakistan." At this point my jaw dropped. I'm Indian and she used this in front of me. She saw my expression and went, "Oh no, I don't mean Latinos. They're fine, I love Mexican food." So it seems like she thinks I was a Latino. My birth country never really came up as I speak with an American accent. And she uses a racist word against my own countrymen in front of me. So we get dessert. I get up to use the bathroom, pay off the bill with a good tip, and walk out the door. I left her there. I drove us, and went back and blocked her number. Now I'm even thinking of switching gyms, but I'm just gonna go in the morning. I don't know what I will say if I ever meet her again. Am I the a-hole for ditching my date without transport at the restaurant? Holy moly, that's a hell of a story. No, you are not the a-hole. That girl sucked. Honestly, it just sounds like karma giving her what she deserves. Sounds like the worst date ever. I'm sorry you had to pay for that, my man. Anyway, let's move on to the last and final story of the day. Am I the a-hole for replying all and humiliating my coworker at work? I'm an in-house lawyer at a large MNC. I provide legal advice to the various internal departments of the MNC. I have one colleague from the sales department, however, who always copies me into the middle of his email chains with external affiliated companies, asking me to provide legal advice to these affiliated entities. He does this without any courtesy heads up beforehand or any context provided. Initially, I was polite and told him not to do so, as these external affiliates have their own legal departments, and I should not be advising them and taking an unnecessary risk exposure for our company. I would also be sacrificing privilege. He said he understood, but after a few weeks would do the same thing again. Finally, the other day he did it again, but this time with an external affiliated company that my company may have a potential dispute with. In my anger, I removed all external parties from the thread and replied all to the people remaining on the thread from my company. Bill, not his real name, you have to stop dropping your legal counsel into the middle of email threads with external parties without any heads up or context. My job is to advise our company, and not to advise counterparties with whom we might have potential disputes. You cannot keep doing this. You are compromising our company's interests. Please tell your team too. Bill did not reply to my email, and afterwards a few of our mutual colleagues told me that I had gone too far. I understand that I could have been more civil, but I was frustrated because Bill has been doing this consistently and had not appeared to internalize my more polite previous warnings. My subordinates who were on the thread were all happy though, and I overheard some of them quoting my email to each other with relish. They didn't know I could hear them. It turns out they have all experienced the same thing from Bill's team. Am I the a-hole? Again, you tried to warn this dude. OP's definitely not the a-hole in this situation. And that brings us to the end of today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed these stories. Let me know what your thoughts are about these stories in the comment section below. I appreciate all your support, and I'll see you guys in the next video.